This is the Balanced Advisor Podcast with Dr. Travis Perry, helping financial advisors like you achieve balance in their lives.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Balanced Advisor Podcast. I am your guest as always, Dr. Travis Perry. Today I am joined by Bart Zandbergen, who is a CFP with 3 decades of dedication and service to the industry and the founder and CEO of the Zandbergen Group. As a nationally recognized authority in financial planning and investment advising, as well as certified divorce financial advisor, he's devoted his career to guiding clients to a life full of purpose and financial freedom through personalized financial planning. Welcome, Bart, to the show.
Travis, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was fun to get to know you a little bit in the pre-show, hear about your life and your business a little bit. And we're going to dive into how you got into this business. So first, why don't you tell us, why did you become a CFP, even a certified divorce financial advisor? And what maybe even got you in the industry to start with?
Yeah, so we're going to have to roll back about 30 years. And I guess the thought of the concept came about 31 and a half years ago. So after I went to college and studied computer programming. Now, keep in mind, this was back in the day of punch cards, not what kids are used to today. And a year into it, I thought, you know what, this is kind of cool, but I'm not fulfilled. So maybe I need a new job. So went to another place, worked for a couple of years and still not fulfilled. And I thought my direction would be, I'm going to get into sales of computer systems. And IBM was if I could work at IBM, that would be, the best. So IBM didn't want to have anything to do with me, as I didn't have the extensive sales training. And so it was recommended, and the path that I took was a sales support position. So I took a technical sales support position and ended up ultimately in my mid-20s, about 25, 26, selling complete computer systems, hardware and software for manufacturing distribution companies. I did really well. So well that I needed a financial advisor, and there was a friend of mine from the gym, financial advisor. He helped assist me, and we got things started. And then right around my 30th birthday, I remember just waking up thinking, "This, it's great. I have great income, but I'm not fulfilled again, right? I feel like at the end of the day, I'm not changing lives, and I just had this epiphany that I want to change lives." So my advisor, he was a good one, and we had a conversation, and he said, have you ever considered a career in financial services? And like any big decision, I am not Johnny on the spot. It takes me some time. I think about it. I sleep on it, and it took months. And I remember like it was yesterday, I woke up like 2:30 a.m., sat up and said, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. So he helped in, getting with licensing. In those days, it was, get insurance license, get your Series 6. And I helped them. So I would work all day on my computer job. I would, remember this is 30 years ago, I would do calling at night to get people to come to seminars, and did that for about a year and a half. And then about a year. And then finally I was at a point where okay, goodbye, 6-figure paying job with benefits to no salary, no anything, no benefits, but this was my path. So, and 30 years ago, and haven't looked back.
So that said, Bart, you've done a lot. You've changed over the years, and now you're a certified divorce financial specialist there. Tell us a little bit about why you decided to maybe take that path or specialize in that area, or what you decided to do with the career.
Yeah. So that was never a plan, but I'll tell you, there's nothing like going through a divorce yourself to get you on the job training and real life experience. And I realized, not while I was going through the process, when I was done, how complicated it is, and how, from a psychological standpoint, what I went through. And where we live in Southern California, I don't know what the national is, but it's over a 50%. I think we're closer to 60% divorce rate. And I was getting a lot of the non-financial spouses coming to me, mostly female, some male, but the ones that had never touched the checkbook, never was involved. And I thought I owed it to them to not only use my own real life experience, but to have the correct education behind it. So that was the motivation for that.
Yeah, you're the type of person I'm learning. You get to something, you seem to use this adaptation, like you adapt and you grow and you learn and you learn from what's going on around you. I've learned that just in the pre-show, just in a few minutes of talking to you about your life a little bit. How has that, come to be? Is that just something you learned through maybe upbringing or professional development that you just have been very adaptable?
That's a great question. I would not say it was learned. I didn't take any classes. I was, raised very modest. Dad was blue collar, mom stayed at home. Other than work ethic is what I picked up from my dad. I think it must just be innate. I think some of us have it, and maybe some of it becomes learned.
Yeah, it might be. It's likely that you probably attribute a lot of that work ethic and adaptability from your parents, right? From what you've learned from them. And it's a very interesting concept. But, I just noticed that by talking to you now, and the reason why I bring this up is because I think this is a key factor in balance. We're going to talk about your definition of balance. But what I've found with a lot of individuals is it's not just a constant, I'm going to stay balanced. We're often out of balance. In fact, in my book, Achieving Balance, I talk about my interaction with my own father, who was a plumber by trade, blue collar, but, he owned his own business and he liked to fly airplanes. And when I flew with him, he would say, Trevor, we're going to head to this destination. We're going to go by this mountain. And then we're going to go over here. And he'd show me the map and in the sky. It'd be like, hey, but he's like, you know what? We're off this course. Like more than 90% of the time, we're constantly course correcting. And so I think that adaptability concept for you, I just want to really bring that up, is something that I've noticed with a lot of advisors who really value balance. They know, things are out. I got to move over. I've got to switch. I've got to spend less time at work, more time with the family, or vice versa if something's needed. So that said, let's talk about balance in your perspective. What is your definition, analogy, concept that helps you really understand balance?
So one of the best books I think I've read regarding balance, and I think a lot of life benefits as well, it's a book called Halftime, written by a guy named Bob Buford, and it really discusses what's important in life, I think. And I was maybe about 40, so theoretically around half of your life, give or take. And one of the takeaways was, he really drills in the concept of balance. And, my takeaway from that, and just my own, is, I've got a family. I think health is extremely important. Part of my practice is built on a concept we call true wealth. And true wealth is not only, there's family, but there's health. And I say health is the ultimate wealth. Because, I'm sure there's many advisors who have seen and helped people, manage their wealth and watch these people do whatever they can to attract and create this wealth, only to, at the end of their days, right after, whatever it is, retirement or liquidity event, have health issues. And so you see people spending all the money they worked so hard to gain and attract, to try to regain their health. And that's really hard to overcome. So I think that balance is spending enough time to make sure you're healthy, spending time with your family, obviously spending time with your work, making sure your clients are happy and fulfilled. So that's kind of my definition.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. Two things. First is a business partner of mine, Stephen Gwinnett. She actually does coaching specifically for financial advisors who struggle with their health. And that is her mantra. Your health is your wealth. And so she, number one, would absolutely agree with you. And number two, to back that up, when I have actually sat down with advisors to discover what their top priorities in life are, health spiritual health, physical health, mental health. Those are the top 1, 2, 3. Like they're in the top 2 or 3 categories, which tells me that balance really is health as well. And it is relational health. I mean, we can talk about health in a different, variation forms,
Sure.
spiritual, physical, relational. Those are the top 3 that I see every single day. So this is no surprise to me. And I think I love what you're doing, because you're really adding what matters most to every single client.
Yeah.
You're embodying that balanced advisor mentality. So I love that. I love what you're doing there. And I think that's fantastic. You personally, we're going to talk personally with your own situation. You manage a business, you're now remarried, right?
Correct. Yes,
so, and I know you've got family and it's dynamic and there's all sorts of fun stuff that goes with that, but we're also trying to stay healthy. We talked health in the pre-show, like you and I talked about some struggles there.
Yeah.
What are some of the issues that you struggle with trying to keep your own balance as an individual?
Well, you didn't tell me we're going to get personal here, Travis. But okay. So what I struggle with most is providing enough of me to the people who need me. And I am in probably a bit of an unusual situation. You said dynamic, and maybe you're referencing this. So I have a 38-year-old, 33-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So my older kids have kids, so I'm a grandfather, and then I have a 6-year-old. And in 2 of my grandkids' case, my 6-year-old is younger than her niece and nephew. So my point to all that is I have older kids that still need me, right? My daughter is having a crisis. I'm helping her. My son came in today. He had an issue. And then I have a 6-year-old that really needs a lot of me. And then I have a wife, and I have an office, and, about 180 households, and each household has usually, husband, wife, and kids, and we manage, from a family. So what I struggle with is creating enough of me. I've said jokingly, if I could have 2 or 3 or 4 of me working at the same time, that would be great. One of the things that I was a mental decision that I made when my son was born. He's now 33. So you and I, we talked about surfing, but the other passion of mine is just, physical fitness, right? Health is the ultimate wealth. And so I got into fitness training when I was about 20. And it was after work, right? I had a 9-to-5 job before, so it was always after work. I got home a little bit later. When my son was born, I just made the decision, I'm going to go early in the morning. That way I can come after work, spend time with my family and my kids. So I have now been training at 4:30 or 5 a.m. for the last 33 years without fail.
It's phenomenal. The discipline to do that, a few people have. And most of my clients, like they want to get there. They really do. But they struggle with that discipline of setting that intention and doing it. But man, that pays off, doesn't it? Like that, those are dividends, as a financial advisor, the constant, invest is going to have all sorts of benefits than just a lump sum. Here we go.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Right?
It's a great analogy.
But you've been doing this really for the last 30 years, which is absolutely phenomenal. And you're right. Like most advisors, like if I could just have more of me, if I can multiply, I know we can't do it. I mean, at least not ethically, I don't think, but that's a different discussion. But we can delegate, automate, build systems, have teams.
Right.
And you seem like you've done that well. Tell us, what has been one of the keys to you being able to scale without, basically cloning yourself?
So when you start as an advisor, you do whatever you can to make a living, right? So I came from, relatively at the time, a high income to virtually nothing and struggled to get back. And then I came to a point where I need help. And my advisor that I worked with said, look, you need to hire an assistant. So I can't afford an assistant. Well, you can't say that. But what I have learned over time, and it is an example, there's times of growth, and then there's times you need to take a small step back so you can take a giant step forward. And in that analogy is hiring an assistant, right? So there's a small step back in income, And I started her out, my first assistant was probably 25 years ago, part-time, 15 hours a week, 20, 25, and finally got her to 40. So boom, now I have an assistant that handles all the stuff that I need administratively. It got to a point when that I needed more than an assistant. I needed a CSR, client service rep, because there's just too many households, too much going on. We're very, very planning focused. And so I need someone to help run the plans, help with the day-to-day with the clients, because with that many households, I talk to clients every day, but there's more client calls sometimes than I'm able to take. And then ultimately, when I lifted and formed my own firm a year and a half ago, I needed more, right? So there's another step back. And so I hired a director of client experience who is really in charge of all client communication relations. We are very proactive with client birthdays, client anniversaries, and special times we're in graduation time now. We've got so many graduation, gifts and cards going out. So I guess the takeaway to that is I hired a team that allows me to clone myself, if you will, and so far so good.
Yeah, this is a message I think so many advisors want to talk about. They want to talk about how to scale, and they want to know, how do you do this without losing your balance? So here you've been able to replicate a team that you've been able to, or replicate yourself by building a team. And there's still challenges though, right? There's still issues that come up. What would you say are some issues that come up with, I've built a team and I'm wanting to scale, but I don't want to lose my balance? What do you think your biggest struggle is right there?
So I still, to this day, have an issue of control, right? So I still have my fingers pretty much on every, except operations. Nowhere near by operations, I mean like money movement, wires, anything to do with our custodian and money movement. That I couldn't tell you what to do there. So, but beyond that, I'm very involved, and that takes time, right? And so I am working on faith and trust in the people that I have brought in, so that I can, with confidence and peace, know that it's getting done.
Yeah, I love that. In my last chapter in the book, Achieving Balance, which you can still get at achievingbalancebook.com, I got a bundle option there, /book bundle, which is awesome for anybody who wants to get it still. The last chapter is all about fear. We tend to, even though consciously we know what we need to do, like Bart, like, oh, I know I need to scale, but I'm afraid to let go of control. Right? For whatever reason, that fear usually resides in your subconscious mind. And I'm not talking like Freudian psychology, but I'm talking about logistical pathway of where the mental thoughts come from is your subconscious. You might try to bury it. You might try to get rid of it, but really the answer to it is faith. You mentioned faith and trust. Yeah. And if you struggle with delegation, I've heard all sorts of ways to deal with this. Almost every podcast episode, we talk about delegation without even bringing it up. But it is one thing that I found consistently that you just mentioned, like having faith in the people that you've hired, training them well, helping them. So tell me specifically, like an actual item, what is something that you try to do that increases your faith or trust in those that you've hired and trained?
One of the biggest challenges I think that I have, but I'm a big believer in, I don't know if you've ever heard this old adage, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. So I've been trying to, I control, 100 things. Let me give one thing, right? Let me see how that goes. Okay, that was one bite. Let me give another thing. There's another bite. So I kind of mentioned early on that I don't move quickly on big decisions. And so this is my moving at my pace of delegation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100%. Like you definitely have to eat an elephant one bite at a time if you want to eat an elephant. And this is the elephant. This is the elephant in the room, to use that analogy, that fits perfect.
Yeah.
Because I honestly 100% believe like this control issue, majority of the time is the issue that financial advisors have. The other issue might just be they need to hire the right people. Did they hire the wrong people? This morning we did a webinar, and we're recording this here in June, but I did a webinar with another partner of ours who does hiring. Like, I don't do anything with hiring. I don't have advisors with that, but boy, does that take up time, energy, resources. And quite honestly, you still are sometimes running the gambit of, is this going to actually be a hire that I can trust, someone that really care about? So yeah, I think this is something that all advisors, whether they are considering hiring, they're already hiring a team, they're trying to motivate their teams, that they work on. I'm listening to Good to Great, and I love the book. I'm just listening to it on audio, and it's an oldie, but it's good. It's classic because they build off research. And one of the things that they say is you don't have to motivate people. You hire people who are self-motivated, you trust, and that can just, be trained. But you hire the right people, get the right people on the bus, and then you figure out, what positions that they can play.
Yeah.
Has that been helpful, that kind of mentality? Is there something else you want to share that maybe has been helpful to help you to take those bites?
No, I think you're spot on the hiring the right people. Because through experience, hiring the wrong person is costly in time, resource, money. It's just that's probably someone I'm going to need to get a hold of, is your contact there. I'm just kind of like wildcatting it when I hire. I go off of intuition, and it's not bad, but I think a structured format's probably better.
Yeah, it can be, and it doesn't mean that you're out of the process, but like anything else, if you developed a really good system, someone else can run the majority of that, and you can, come in and provide the finishing touches.
Sure.
How great would it be if you're making a hire and a service brings you 3 people who are qualified, and, you make the final say, like, I want that one.
That'd be great.
Go. Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
So I love working with those guys. Stephanie Roberts, I think she did podcast number 3 or 4 on the Balanced Advisor podcast. Highly recommend it to this group and anyone else who struggles with the hiring issue. Because we just did a webinar with them this morning, and they're fantastic. Looking at other advisors, speaking of the industry, what do you see are some struggles that other advisors face just because we're in this industry, just because, some of the expectations, the culture of this industry that fights against scaling with keeping your balance?
To some degree, they're the issue that I spoke of, like not recognizing that they are controlling and not willing to give up some control. So really getting in their own way. I've seen that with more, and this is on the independent side. I'm not really sure who your listeners are. I know the banking side is a much different scenario, but on the independent side, we're entrepreneurs and trying to run a practice, and so that's what I've seen.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't really deal with the banking side much at all, but I'm with you. Like when you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner. A lot of times you have all these great ideas, but they could also be the problem, as well as your own subconscious fears that we were talking about a little bit, is kind of getting in your own way. It's fantastic. And it's absolutely true. I know advisors can relate to this. They know this is a struggle. And obviously I exist to help advisors achieve their balance, get there, achieve their goals. But I really do believe that they can scale their business and keep that balance. In fact, I think those two go hand in hand. It acts as the countermeasure per se. And we were talking stand-up paddleboarding, we were talking surfing earlier, to use that analogy. If you're just leaning to one side, you're heavy one side, even if you're staying above, you're just going in circles, right?
What a great analogy. Yeah. You never really get anywhere. Yeah.
You're not going to go anywhere, but if you can learn how to stroke either side of the board, you're going to go straight and you're going to go far, and you're going to use that to help you to kind of counterbalance and counterweight what your endeavors are. So people that show up that don't have health like you, that don't, make it a point to make time for their family and serve them, but just focus on the business, they soon find that their health and their relationships are down the toilet. The ones that do realize that, whoa, these are the pieces of my life that help keep me in balance while I'm scaling, so I don't lose perception and perspective of where I want to be headed. So this is wonderful conversation, Bart. What other advice would you give financial advisors out there who are trying to scale, wanting to get to the place where you are with your business? I know you manage a very nice practice and you're very successful. But what other advice would you give them if you would to close up our segment?
Sure. So if it's a younger or newer advisor, I would say, and I was talking to one of my buddies who just hit his 10-year anniversary, and I've been telling him for the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, he's, it was kind of more of the newbie struggles. Am I going to make it? Do I know enough people? Am I going to make enough money? And I said, 10 years, make it to 10 years. That's a turning point. That was a turning point for me. And if you can just stay in the business long enough, things start to happen. Your young people are now getting ready to not at 10 years necessarily, but I have clients for 30 years now, and they've retired. They've got inheritances. They've sold companies. So it's being perseverant. There's going to be times of struggle, no doubt about it. So that would be something for them. And I think for the more seasoned, don't forget your health, right? And I love the way you broke it down. So the mental health, your relational health, your physical health, I think that's so important. And for us to do our job, right, the best that we can, we have to have all of those levels of health. And I just think that's really important.
Well, hey, thank you for your wisdom, for sharing your personal side and being willing to open up about this topic that, quite honestly, advisors struggle with big time in this industry. The ones that haven't figured out, or at least have had some experience with this, I love being able to interview them and know of both their successes and their struggles of trying to build a business, scale it while keeping this balance. So thank you, Bart, for being on the show. Those who like this, maybe there's someone out there who needs to hear what Bart had to say today. Share, like, subscribe, give us a 5-star review on the podcast method that you're listening to on this show. We love doing this. I really do enjoy this opportunity to interview other amazing advisors out there. So thanks again, Bart. Thank you, listeners, for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.